John, I have a problem, and that is I'm interested in using my internal identity and access management database, which happens to be Active Directory, to secure my Google applications in the cloud. And my problem today is that I want to manage the provisioning and deprovisioning of all the users, yet still have Google provide me email and other application services. Do you have a solution at Vanguard that'll help me solve that problem?
Well, you're describing two things. Let's see if we can separate them. But I believe we have something to help you. One would be is you do understand we're going to separate use and authentication. And you said Active Directory. You want that to be your primary source of authentication, correct?
Right. And I wouldn't mind having a backup.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that maybe my mainframe would be my backup
Okay.
if for some reason.
So you want to have multiple databases?
Right.
Okay.
Is that possible?
That is,
And how could I accomplish that?
Well, there's a couple ways you can do that. The easiest way, Vanguard has a product called Authenticator.
Okay.
Google has an authentication method called SAML, Security Markup Language, Authentication and Markup Language. Okay.
Would that be security assertion markup?
Assertion.
I've heard of that.
Yes, have you heard of that? Yeah, SAML. Okay. And we have a product that will integrate SAML back to either one of those databases you like, or both of those databases. So you could use the back-end database as Active Directory, or the ZOS platform with a RAC app backend. Either one of those security databases for authentication we could utilize.
So what you're saying then is that I could basically go to Google and say, I want to utilize your services, Google, and then point their authentication at my own internal system?
At your own internal system.
And this would work?
This would work today.
So what I could then do is, as I add and remove users from my organization, if I add and remove them from Active Directory or the mainframe security server, they would automatically be able to sign in or be revoked from getting into the Google apps?
They would all be revoked from the Google apps.
Okay.
Okay. It would be just slightly different than that in the fact that they must exist or Google's going to tell them no. Okay. So for instance, if you had a brand new user that comes on board, right, and you have not provisioned yet, he will have no access to Google until you, even though you said Google, hey, I'm ready to go.
Right.
Google creates him an ID.
Okay.
Okay. Until you actually say yes, his ID maps to the local ID. Google's still going to say no, so you're totally in control.
And the local ID being an Active Directory ID or a mainframe ID?
Either one, yes.
Or
both.
Or both. Okay, good. And if I were to do that, when I go to Google and say, hey, Google, I need this new user, and they provision him, is his password immediately whatever I set in Active Directory at that point?
Yes, it's actually in control totally, completely. So if you, for instance, if Google says, hey, okay, I got him, and Google operates in two methods. They can do the setup, or one of your internal employees can do the setup, okay? So let's talk about your employee does it.
Right.
Probably not the same employee who does RAC app, right? Probably a different person.
Right,
It's
yeah.
probably an HR, SAP, some sort of thing. He creates a user in Google.
Right.
It's not active because Active Directory hasn't been set up.
Okay.
So you would have this active user sitting there waiting for a new user ID and password, right? There's no password, there's no nothing. We're actually in control.
So until that user is created in my internal database, whether it's Active Directory or the mainframe, that user cannot access
Correct.
the
You would say
service.
user's not here.
Oh, excellent. And then if an employee, let's say, decides to leave my organization, how difficult is it for me to turn that account off?
Well, now that's an interesting concept because you mentioned deleting the user or revoking the user.
Right.
And those are actually two different things. Think about them as a light switch. The revoke is turning them off. You can do that immediately and have immediate control. And then deleting them, taking out the trash and all that stuff is done later on down the road.
And that would be synonymous with then removing the light from the building.
Exactly.
So
Throwing it
the
away.
light switch versus having the light actually exist.
Yeah.
Okay. And this can all be controlled for the authentication through the Vanguard Authenticator?
Authenticator product, yes.
Oh, excellent. Well, that sounds pretty neat. Can you show it to me?
Sure.
All right, excellent.